Directed by Tom Collins and starring Colm Meaney, Kings is the screen adaptation of Jimmy Murphy's play The Kings of the Kilburn High Road. A gang of Connemara men who have laboured long in London find themselves stranded with only drink and each other to keep themselves going. And while one of them, played by Colm Meaney, has done well for himself, they are all haunted by their failures and by the dreams they first had when they landed in the big city. The movie is mostly in Irish and has been selected as Ireland's entry for Best Foreign Language Film at next year's Academy Awards.
Is dóigh go bhfuil éireann cosú leis an bhroiséal inis. Leis an Euros agus chuileabhairt.
An bhroiséal? Fan no, met. Ní muid có teic sin. Is fear éibre. Má tat ó géireach goil tír. Go muid tír. Play it cool, Joe. A fág a caint amsa.
Colm Meaney, a flash of Sean O'Tarpey, and before that Donal O'Kelly and Brendan Conroy. Jim, what did you make of Kings? Because it's not a barrel of laughs, this film, and you have to kind of get your head around that for a start.
It's very bleak and it's very brilliant. It's a really, really good film, and it deserves an Oscar, actually. What I liked about it in particular, one of the first things I ever researched as a historian was immigration to England. And what you always got were the views of the bishops, the priests, the charitable organisations. You rarely got the voice of the emigrants themselves. And this is what this play is about. It reminded me of a comment that an Irish psychiatric nurse made about the condition of older Irish emigrants at the moment, that they were finding deep wells of human sadness in ordinary people. That's what this play is about. It's very emotionally intense, it's very bleak, it's very skillfully scripted, and they move effortlessly between the Connemara Gaeilge and the English. And the use of the Irish makes it much more effective as well, because there's all sorts of confusion going on about where they belong. I mean, their motto when they went over was all for one, that they were going to stick together. And their lives are bordered by violence and neglect, and alcoholism is central to all this as well. And this sense of displacement, where is home? Are they actually still Irish? You know, there's a line at one stage where up the paddies is said, and the response from one of them is F the paddies. And then this row about where they belong and who they are. And the performances are really, really effective, you know. So it's very emotionally intense. And it's highlighting as well, and this is what Jimmy Murphy did originally with his play, an issue it's not just an Irish issue. I mean, there was a production of this play with an all-African cast in the Andrews Lane Theatre a while back, and one of the Nigerian actors made the point that if you want to understand what some of the African communities are going through in Ireland at the moment, you need to see this play, and you need to see this film as well. It's really impressive.
Peter, it's a tough film to watch, you know. It's fairly unrelenting in terms of its darkness.
It is, I mean, and indeed I agree, it was a tough play to watch. It's unrelenting, it's bleak, and it's particularly morose. There's very little humour here. There's no levity. There's actually very little of the kind of acrid wit that you associate with the dispossessed, with essentially the victims of diaspora, the thing that kind of cloaks and protects them. Here it's particularly raw. What I like about the film is the differences it inserts into Jimmy Murphy's play, in Tom Collins' adaptation. Largely because of the establishing scenes, he knows that less is more in terms of dialogue. He's willing to let the camera and the actors and the faces of those actors, Donal O'Kelly in particular, Brendan Conroy, etched with sadness. I mean, they see the ghost of Jackie quite frequently, but it's them who look haunted. My huge problem with the film, it's significant and it's fundamental, is actually the Connemara Gaeilge. The whole point is that they are lost, they are dispossessed, and they are rootless. They're not at home in London, they can't return to Ireland. And at the same time, the language is, and you know, it's not really bilingual, it's pretty much straight Irish. The English is used very sparingly.
Do you think they wouldn't have been speaking Irish in
Well,
London?
it's just that I couldn't work out how to read it. It was so pristine, I felt that after 30 years living in London, it had to be corrupted. It had to be a little lost. To me, it functioned like an umbilical cord.
I'll come to you a second,
back
Jan,
to the
but
motherland.
historically they would have spoken Irish, wouldn't
But
they?
you see, this is the whole thing about when they were talking about one for all for one, that they were going to stick together, and they made a commitment to each other that they would continue to speak Irish as well. And you've got
But
to
they
remember,
betray all their
but
promises.
the communities that they're moving in, they're very much Irish communities, displaced Irish communities. So there isn't actually that much interaction.
Gina, and this is a story, obviously, it's true, and we assume that this movie is a very accurate depiction of it. And you can see it to this day in London, you know, the men around Camden Station and so on. And you know they're lost, and you know they kind of can't come home and all of that. But there's an expectation that this movie might win an Oscar in the Best Foreign Language section and so on. Again, the question I asked you about the Marianne Pearl movie, as a movie, does it work?
Oh, well, it's very difficult to take a one-act play, and we have to congratulate the director to take a one-act play like that and give it such a good backstory and to bring those characters from the 1970s into 2007. What struck me about it, and I don't know whether the other two thought this at all, it didn't strike me as 2007. You know, I don't think a shot of Joe Moneybags Mullen snorting coke summed up 2007. And I was in London in the 70s, and we did go up and sing and play for some of those men in Camden Town, in the Camden Centre. And if it was set more in the 80s or the 90s, I just felt it's a very particular group of people, it's a very particular story about a particular time in Irish economic history. They were displaced, there was no going back, you know, and there's a ferocious melancholy. You know,
Well,
there's a
they
nostalgia
always-
of ferocious melancholy in it, like this was what it was like, it was unrelenting. Well, it wasn't entirely unrelenting. They couldn't go back. The lunatic dream that Donal O'Kelly, very good performance by Donal O'Kelly, absolutely fine. On the stairwell about her, we're going to go back and we're going to set up a, you know it's a pipe dream, but also it feels like something that would have been said in the 80s when there was very little chance of going back. And I don't think, to differ with you, that let's say the Polish workers who come over here suffered the same displacement as those Irish men of that particular time. Things have changed. They have the internet. I know this sounds facetious, but they have cheap flights. It's not the same. Also, the complete lack of the feminine in this movie struck me.
But then
And
that's-
maybe
but
that's
it's a
part of the
man's
heritage.
world.
That's part
Even
of
the
their problem.
marriage was the most arid, unpleasant scene. There was no feeling of...
But the lack of women, Jeremy,
But
the lack of women is very important.
this is
wasn't
a
it?
man's world, and I mean that's the reality of it.
But they
And
all
that's
want
part of the
a
problem.
woman. They say, you know,
They
you're
do.
all right, you've got a woman to help you.
But they
That's
get
right.
more concerned, you see, with the male hierarchy, and this is why this film is interesting as well, because it's a very enduring theme of Irish emigration to Britain, that there are those who do very, very well, and there are those who don't. And then resentments begin to build about the paddies who are doing well and the paddies who aren't. And with regards to contemporary Polish people in Ireland, you see, it's too early to say how displaced they're going to
That's
be.
the historian.
You know, but you're absolutely right about one thing. There is a bit of trickery going on with the decades, because there's constant reference to the men who built Britain, that we built the, you know, the post-war boom.
It
That
wasn't
didn't
that
happen in the
generation.
1970s.
Yeah.
It happened in the 1950s.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of leeway taken with that, but I think that's a minor thing.
All right.